Welcome in to the Rock Talk Studio, the place to find your next great rock and roll book or documentary. This is the podcast that reviews, previews, and most importantly, recommends the good stuff. Like today's book about a band that was constantly voted the number one band on college radio during the 80s. They said, okay, we'll try it. We'll try a little mainstream, and then blew up and became a worldwide sensation in the 90s. I'm your host, Big Rick. Join me for an exclusive look into what's hitting the shelves and the screens, and get ready to rock your reading and viewing list. And today, the spotlight falls on the book. The name of this band is R.E.M., a biography by Peter Ames Carlin. And R.E.M. was kind of like two bands. In the late 70s through the 80s, they were underground. College radio was heaping a ton of airtime and praise on them. They created an alternative music few had heard before. And then you had the 90s version of the band where they just literally exploded, sold millions of records, signed on with a major record label, made millions, and agreed to join the MTV tidal wave and made videos that launched them into people's homes around the world. And this book, the name of this band is R.E.M., written by Peter Ames Carlin, expertly illustrates their evolution from obscurity to crazy, crazy mainstream. And he did it while doing something most books about a band don't do. And he did it really well. Fantastic, actually. And that was finding a way to weave each of the four band members' origin stories, their upbringing, how they started playing, and how they met each other into the whole story, while never missing a beat and driving the chapters forward. This is probably one of the things that really impressed me the most about this book, the way the author delved into the backgrounds of each of the band members, highlighting their formative years and looking how their personal stories and how they shaped the band's unique sound and dynamic. It's really amazing that when R.E.M. started, how little they knew as musicians. It was a magical beginning, and it was captured nicely by Carlin, and he really hit on the essence of R.E.M.'s early chemistry. He also found a way to highlight the communal spirit of R.E.M.'s early years, including memorable moments like their first performance in an old church, and he took his time showing how the band formed within the artistic community of Athens, Georgia. As it says in the book, R.E.M. were about being outsiders, working against the grain of mainstream society, about being for and often about the artists, the freaks, and the weirdos in the room. Carlin also really sunk his teeth into the recordings and the descriptions of the songs and the way each band member played, and he does it with extreme detail. I mean, you can really tell from the depth of this conversation that Ames Carlin knows R.E.M.'s music really well, and he goes past praise, and it becomes more of a dissection. His descriptions are very deep and thorough. He even takes a few cracks at deciphering Michael Stipe's elusive lyrics, and this maneuver by him just brings you closer to the band and their progression as artists, something that this book does really, really good job of doing and explaining. R.E.M. took a lot of flack for becoming popular. Yes, the sellout word gets kicked around a lot about them, but Carlin shows how they were progressing as artists. They needed to grow, and grow they did. Could they really have remained college underground darlings forever and still carried on? I doubt it. And as the story moves through their climb in popularity, it was interesting to see how they faced it. It was engaging the way Ames Carlin showed how challenging it had become for the band, who was, at the time, more college favorites, but was growing more and more popular every year. And as R.E.M. grew in popularity, the book examines the challenges they face while providing an authentic look at their internal struggles. This book is able to really capture the essence of R.E.M. as both an underground college radio favorite and a global phenomenon. It's a very thorough presentation of the band that demonstrates the author's exhaustive knowledge and passion for R.E.M.'s artistry. And I think the pacing of this book had a lot to do with why I enjoyed it so much, and why I really highly recommend this book. I like the pace of this book. It's just written well. It's one of those books you read, and when you finish it, you feel like you just absorbed a piece of art. To be able to inject that much detail while telling and moving this massive, sprawling subject matter and giving deep, well-placed background in each member really makes this book special, and why I feel it really stands out, and why it just won the Rock Talk Studios Best Book About a Band Award that just took place a couple of weeks ago. If you want to learn more about that and find out the rest of the winners, the shows in the archives, just go back a couple episodes. The name of this band is R.E.M. It's a winner. It's written by Peter Ames Carlin. It runs 464 pages, and I highly recommend it. So what's left to explore about this book? If you feel it might be worth your time and money, what's the one big question that I had after I finished the final page? Well, it was, why did the band refuse to be interviewed for the book? Before I answer this week's one big question, I need to check in with you for a moment and see if you got December's Rock Talk Studio Blast. You know, the email that goes out on the last Friday of the month that gives you everything you need to know about the world of rock and roll books and docs, the top 5 titles of the year, the latest announced titles for 2025, and this is the big one, a chance to win a free copy of a book that ranked as a number 2 book of the year, Robin Hitchcock's memoir, 1967. If the answer to that is no, I can help you out with that, and it's easy. All you have to do is send me an email at info@rocktalkstudio.com and say, Big Rick, send me the blast, and I'll hook you up. Everyone who joins the blast gets a free entry into the book drawing, and a little disclaimer, the book giveaway is only for you as citizens. But don't let that stop you for signing up from the blast. Anyone can sign up for the monthly blast. All you have to do is send me an email. Again, info@rocktalkstudio.com. One more thing, if you did sign up for the blast, shoot me an email and let me know what else you want to see me cover, not only in the blast, but on the podcast as we go into the 3rd year of the Rock Talk Studio. Okay, time to jump into the one big question about the name of this band is R.E.M., the book, the biography. R.E.M. did not give any interviews for this book, though Peter Buck did confirm a few things for the author. Basically, you can only get so close to them. That's just the way they have always operated, the way they spoke to the press, and Carlin does a really good job of pointing this out in the book. It was always really measured, and they were tight, and you see that in the interviews that they did do throughout their career that the book quotes from. All 4 members carried a very similar message in their interviews. Really not until Michael Stipe started taking on a more activist role, you couldn't really tell who was answering the questions. It could have come from any member of the band. Not being able to interview them left the book a little hollow, but they were always hard to interpret. And it actually added to the value of the book and the writing by Peter Ames Carlin. Even though you don't get to hear directly from R.E.M. themselves, Carlin gets you about as close as possible and delivers a well-researched book with detailed storytelling and keen insight on one of rock's most innovative and popular bands. Allman Brothers fans, I know you're out there because some of my most downloaded episodes of the podcast are the 2 that I've done on the Allman Brothers books. I want to turn you on to some great Allman Brothers content, and that is the Long Live ABB newsletter. Now that I'm on Substack doing the monthly blast, I started to look around at other newsletters, and this one is my all-time favorite. It's put out by Bob Beatty, who wrote the awesome book Play All Night, Duane Allman and the Journey to Fillmore East, which won the Rock Talk Studios Best Book About a Band Member last year. You get a chance, check that book out if you haven't read it. It is awesome. But he's got a newsletter out now called Long Live the ABB, and it is the most thorough, most thought-provoking, most in-depth. He's got the best content about the Allman Brothers. So if you want to look into more about the Allman Brothers band, Long Live the ABB newsletter. It's a great read every time. I know you're going to like it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love talking rock and roll and be able to give you the scoop on a title I think is worth your time and money, like next week's podcast. It's a documentary about 4 young musicians whose first step off a plane in New York City changed the world. All right, tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. We'll see you next time in the Rock Talk studio.